Alex Garland has had a fascinating career. Starting as a screenwriter, he made big waves with films like 28 Days Later and the cult classic Dread remake. But few could have predicted the power of 2015's Ex Machina, a terrifying tale of AI and the tech bros that would create them. It has only become more and more terrifying over time as the decade proceeds into the new AI era. And honestly, it's become a cornerstone to the A24 production project. Since then, my relationship with his films has really faltered, from the stalker-inspired Annihilation to the laughably bad Men. These films masquerade themselves in the visuals of other great filmmakers, particularly the work of Soviet films in the 70s and 80s. And unfortunately, the trend continues here with Civil War, a film where the cinematic language feels in complete disconnect. When the trailers for Civil War dropped, like many, I was completely confused by the premise of the story. A world where the states of California and Texas have seceded from the Union in order to overthrow a fascist Nick Offerman, who is quickly becoming the go-to image of conservative America. So going in, I was already starting off on the wrong foot. But to my surprise, this film is not concerned at all with the socio-political issues that have led to this civil war. The film is instead strangely about the ethics of photojournalism. We follow legendary photojournalist Lee Smith, not that Lee Smith, played by acting heavyweight Kirsten Dunst. She and her journalist partners Joel and Sammy travel through the war-torn Atlantic region of America to interview the president before his eventual fall in Washington, D.C. Before leaving, however, we meet Jessie, played by rising star Kaylee Spaney, who plays the young and overly confident photojournalist, hoping to glean knowledge from her idol Lee. The film follows the structure of a road trip movie as we follow our characters as they move from one action set piece to another. Clearly inspired by films like Apocalypse Now and Come and See, Garland tries to recreate the feeling of descent into a hellscape, but he is unable to match the poetic and visceral feelings of those films. Only in moments do we reach great tension, like in a sequence involving a sniper and two men discussing the reason in which they're firing at each other, or the haunting performance from Jesse Plemons as a soldier. The sound design is brutal and loud, especially in the IMAX format that is being presented in. Gunshots are horrifying, and it rips any enjoyment one might have with the action in this film and works as the most successful piece of the film. Unfortunately, great sound design cannot save this writing. Our characters are flat, with characterizations ranging from a girl from the Midwest with passive parents to a woman from the Midwest with passive parents. I guess everyone in the Midwest is living on a farm in Alex Garland's America. The actors are given very little to work with here, and it shows. Moments of connection between Lee and Jesse are meaningless and carry some truly horrible exposition. These broad strokes match the incoherent landscape of his world he has built in order to ground the meaning of his work, which I remind you is about the ethics of photojournalism. I've seen many people over the last few days speak at the intentions behind the flat America that Garland has built, saying that Garland is attempting to show how war is portrayed in other countries compared to how the American audience sees them. However, it seems to fall apart when the visual language itself is so derivative of other works that are steeped in reality and nuance. The power of a film like Apocalypse Now is based in America's decade-long chaos in the jungle of Vietnam, as we watch a GI lose control of his mind and psyche, much like America losing its purpose or goal in the war. Come and See is a biblical analogy of loss of innocence, as a boy's life is destroyed by the invasion of Nazi Germany and Belarus. Civil War feels like a film trapped between wanting to recreate the dreamlike horror of the films mentioned and questioning the ethics of capturing war on camera. Garland has said he feels like this is a love letter to photojournalism, but I don't see how. The camera in the hands of Jesse is more of a weapon than something honorable, who uses a point-and-shoot style of photography to match her eagerness and ignorance. The disappointing piece of this is the handling of Lee, whose internal questioning of the ethical nature of journalism are very upfront at the beginning, but drifts all the way to the back by the end, leaving us with a shaky, unintelligible understanding of what the character thinks and feels, choosing to instead end in one of the most cliche ways possible as Lee just becomes a bridge for Jesse, which tarnishes what could have been a powerful ending. Much like Alex Garland's recent films, Civil War feels like a work of empty pastiche, taking profound ideas and images from other greater artists and synthesizing them into palatable and surface level art. Though some technical aspects of the film are able to raise the tension, the paper-thin characters and the disjointed filmmaking hold it back from being anything memorable. It's really disappointing, but I'm really thinking like a 2 out of 5 on the rating here. It's such a confusing film to sift through because it asks a lot of questions, but it really doesn't feel like it has anything to say at all. And there's a difference between wanting to say something with what you're doing or being preachy, and then turn around and just not say anything with your film. And I don't think he's technically rigorous enough to make these ethical statements with his film, like something like The Zone of Interest that goes all the way to provoke what is the use of a camera in a film. This film has no intentions of being that rigorous. Well, I thought I'd mention a couple of films that are great companion pieces with this film itself. I think that work better than what this one does here. And to start off, I actually have this one on Blu-ray. This is Come and See. This is the Criterion Blu-ray edition. It is a harrowing film on war. It's probably the best film on the horrors of war. It is channeled through this young boy who is completely destroyed by the war, and you see the loss of innocence through his eyes and the eyes of another girl along with him. It almost matches this idea of Adam and Eve, and then as they are thrown out of the garden and they descend through the hell of the invasion of Nazi Germany. It is a powerful film, and it is visceral, it is poetic, it's biblical in scale and in tone, and I think it's one of the greatest films ever made. And on top of that, I'd like to give a nod to Apocalypse Now, probably the most overly quoted film in war movies. It's just unfortunate that most people do not know how to work within what Francis Ford Coppola is using the visuals here for. I think it gets oversimplified into just a movie about the chaos of war, but there's something very poetic about the film and how it runs parallel to America's relationship to Indochina. And finally, I really wanted to give a shout out to Alex Garland. I know I said I did not like really all of his movies. Outside of this one, Ex Machina, I think it is still a phenomenal film. It is a very original work on the terror of AI and the men that have built it. And as we talk about AI starting to consume the art world as well as just our day-to-day lives, I just read an article online how AI girlfriends are going to be like $1 billion industry, and it's really terrifying what the state of the world is in, and I think Ex Machina is one of the best versions of this conversation. And I really do think that Alex Garland is a great artist. It's just unfortunate how much of his recent output has been so reliant, really thin. It feels so constructed. Honestly, like the best way I can describe it is like Alex Garland has been like Drake. Like he's Drake right now, where he's just taking everything that's interesting, subcultures and of hip hop and underground, and synthesizing it through like a pop medium, but still holding on to some of the images and really, really relying on his reenactment of other better films to portray what he's trying to say. It's just unfortunate, even though there are some moments in the film that are really great and effective. So yeah, sorry for the negative review here, but thank y'all so much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and I've got some other videos down below that you can check out as well. Thank y'all so much, and have a great day.